you actually make me want to ask you a question for myself.
Sure.
I had a recent relationship with a girl. It didn't last long. Um, and the reason why we fell out is because we had this one incident when we're having breakfast at my apartment. And the incident went like this. We're talking about men and women, and she had this idea that like it takes women a long time to get to know men. And I'm like, girl, I'm like, bro, you could figure someone out like this. As men, like I already know I could size somebody up within moments of being around them, right? So I was trying to tell her like, this is why I feel like women need men's help in dating, because like men, we can kind of see a lot of these things that women are looking for, that they have a hard time seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, long story short, we got into a conversation where she started rebuttaling a point I didn't make. I didn't make this point whatsoever. So it's kind of like a logical fallacy, right? She started doing like a straw man argument. And I tried to stop her, like I tried to interrupt her, not to be rude, but to interrupt her, like I didn't make that point. You know what I'm saying? Like you're saying something I didn't, like and she's going on a long rant about it. And when she did that, I said to her, I was like, I tried to interrupt, and she's like, stop. She's like, stop. You're interrupting. You're not listening. And I got so mad because I'm like, bitch, you responded to something I didn't say. You're not listening. And I felt like it was gaslighting. I'm like, you said to me that I don't listen, but you responded to something I didn't say. Long story short, I cut her off after that. I'm like, no, first of all, you're not listening to me, right? And then you're going to turn around and say that I'm not listening. Like, you know what I'm saying? I just felt like I was so offended by that. You know what I'm saying? And I essentially just like stonewalled her. Like I drove her back to her apartment, got picked her up, drove her back to her apartment, and I just gave her like the complete silent treatment. And she was like begging for me to like talk to her. Like she realized that I went like silent. Now she wants my like, oh, just talk to me. And I didn't want to tell her what I was mad about, because I kind of knew that like she would just like not take accountability for it anyway. So I used an analogy. I was like, can you, all right, imagine this, right? I said, imagine if you met someone that's like a habitual liar.
Okay.
And they accuse you of lying. How would that make you feel? Right? She was like, that person's absolutely ridiculous. And I say, exactly. Absolutely ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? That's how I felt about her. You know, she doesn't listen, but accused me of not listening. My question for you is what's the better way I could have handled that situation? Because my conclusion from that is that women just don't listen. Now, maybe they do listen, but my thought from that was like, they don't listen to hear you. They listen to respond. She was more concerned about what she's going to say to me as a response rather than actually addressing my concern. So, what's your take on that?
So for starters, both sexes actually have their version of not responding well to things they don't want to hear. For women, in responding with emotion, sometimes they'll do exactly that tactic. They'll listen to parts of the conversation. They'll listen to pieces of words that you said, parts of the sentence, or they'll take out parts and put in new parts and then react and respond to that. Like, you know, or and the big one is they'll reference things that happened before that have nothing to do with the current thing we're talking about now. Like these are interesting, or they'll flip it and try to make you feel guilty for saying, like, there's a whole host of strategies that they do. Sometimes men will do some of those as well, but a big one with men is we'll stonewall. We'll stop talking. We'll shut down so that now conversation can't happen. So both sexes have their versions of what they'll do when they don't like how the conversation is going. Right. Now, in regards to that particular situation, there's a few ways in which I think it could have gone a little bit differently. The first is, and this is what I'm saying to guys in general, because I deal with it. I try to get better at it. And over the last, let's say 3 years, I've gotten so much better at it in comparison to like the last 10 years. Like it's a night and day difference for me. The first thing is actually slowing down before you think that you're going, because what happens is that I think we get into these spats and arguments with the ladies or women that we're with, and we don't realize that when you're going back and forth with them, you already lost. Imagine if taking an L or losing is matching a woman's energy. then if you don't want to lose, or if your focus is to reach a solid conclusion or resolve things, matching her energy and trying to go back and forth in the moment when her emotions are high is highly unlikely. Right? So the minute that she's already showing an elevated emotion and it's not positive, you already should be starting to slow down how quickly you're saying something, what you're going to say, how you're going to, it's the equivalent of when you're driving a car and you start to see in the distant future, I mean, just in front of you, you start to see images that make it known you're about to crash into something. Would you keep going full-fledged ahead, or do you start tapping on that brake? Right? So the moment you see something in the distance that lets you know I'm about to crash, this is about to be a chaos, this is about to be chaotic, you start slowing down, pumping on that brake. All right, I hear you. I understand. So so that's the starting point. When they elevate their emotions and feelings, men who haven't gotten this piece down, we start elevating ours. Now we start trying to prove a point. Now we start trying to win the argument. Now we're going to change her mind like we ever do in that moment, which we never do, right? So what happens is, effectively, when we're driving real fast and we see something we're about to crash, in the conversation, when she gets too high or gets too emotional, we press on the gas harder instead of pressing on the brake and starting to slow down. What I'm suggesting is that if we start slowing down, there's a potential that she'll start slowing down with us. But if you start matching her energy, we all have experienced what happens with those conversations. They get crazy, they get volatile, somebody storms off. Now we're not talking the whole nine, right? So learning to slow down, be more selective with the words you're going to say. And then this is the key part. Stop assuming in the moment when the bullets or shots that she's shooting at you are going to actually hit you. What I mean by that is, not every shot, like if you're playing dodgeball, right? If you was in school, high school, college, or whatever, and y'all play dodgeball, every time somebody throws a ball at you, do you have to duck? Every time? Do you have to do?
Yeah, only if it's close to you, right? Only if it's
right? Right. So you really only should be reacting to the things that's truly going to hit you. If she's saying things that's wildly not true, wildly not accurate, why are you reacting in the moment as if it is? Hold on. Hold on. Am I cooking?
You're cooking, bro. But I want to say this because you're embarrassing me. I feel like on my own show.
Yeah. Well, think of it this way, man. If you go by shape and I keep calling you something else,
right?
If you know what your name is, you wouldn't react to respond to I address you correctly. So if you're saying things that's not true, your emotions is elevated, and I'm seeing where this is trending. If I slow down and stop trying to react in the moment to things that's not even true and don't apply to me, now you're not going to get the same reaction and rise out of me. I know the truth. I know what I said, and I know what you're stating in the moment didn't happen or isn't true. So why am I reacting as if it is? It isn't. So it takes practice, but what I'm basically suggesting is remaining stoic, still being present. You're now more mindful of what's happening in the course of the conversation. And now you realize she's no longer reacting to this conversation. She's reacting to the thing that was said that's making her feel some type of way. She's now reacting to the idea that she did something wrong. She's now reacting to the idea that she now thinks that she's not a good girlfriend, not a good wife, not a good partner, not a good mother. She's now reacting from a level of defensiveness that I'm not doing or saying anything to warrant this level of reaction. Why am I going to match her energy? So matching her energy, trying to go full speed ahead and not slowing down and realizing what's happening in real time, and stop reacting to it as if every single thing she says in her anger in the moment is true. It gives you time to slow down, pause. There's been instances where it's starting to get to that point, and I would say, you know what? It seems like right now, even if I'm calm, I now use the word we. And that's the piece. Like, if you did all these other things, but you missed this part and you say, you know what? You're getting a little too riled up. You getting too, you already, you effed up. Instead, you say, you know what, right now, I think we're a little we're getting a little too emotional. We're just use the we language. Describe whatever's happening in the moment. You know, I think we're starting to take this a little too personal. I think that we're clearly getting a little frustrated. We're getting a little angry. Everything is we. Now she doesn't hear me. You. So you're joining her in the elevated state with hopes of bringing it down. Those pieces, if you're dealing with a fairly decent human being on the other side, they will slow it down. They'll take you up on your offer, maybe come back in 5, 10, 15 minutes later, and then we can try it again. Now, when she's calmer and you say, hey, I noticed when I said this, you said that I said that. Or I noticed when I mentioned this part, you claimed that I did this. What was up with that? Like, why did you accuse me of that? Or, you know, why did you feel like when I said this, you took it that way? Like, now you're coming from a place of being interested. Like, you're not even, it doesn't even almost come off like accusatory. It almost comes off like curious. And now as she's explaining it, now she's explaining how her emotional thought pattern got her there. And believe it or not, a lot of times when they're now calmer and they're explaining it, they say, you know what, that wasn't fair. You're right. I took it the wrong direction. When you said this is what came to mind for me. Half the time what they're reacting to in the moment isn't about what's happening in the moment.